The Maple Leafs look to muster up more offense tonight going into New Jersey. They might be getting some reinforcements to help along the way as well. We'll break down the matchup on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's happening, Dave? How are we feeling on a Tuesday?
Well, told you the Cowboys were going to let me down. They let me down, and they let you down.
Dave's a big Cowboys fan, and that was just a mockery. What happened? Not only the fumble and that nonsense off the block punt, but then to actually give up the touchdown to Jamar Chase on like a simple little 8-yard out route, and he stops up and blows past the corner and takes it to the house. Not only did he break your hearts and all the hearts of everyone on FanDuel who had the Cowboys to cover the number, along with Hayes and I on the overdrive pick segment. So yeah, we're both a little crushed by what happened in the NFL game last night. But hopefully the Maple Leafs can have a different result tonight against the New Jersey Devils. They did win last time. They went up against New Jersey. They covered the puck line like good teams do. Good teams win, great teams cover, and the Leafs did that last time they played the Devils. That was in their home opener, and they spoiled Sheldon Keefe's home opener, which is, always fun. So the Leafs back in New Jersey tonight to take on the New Jersey Devils, and they got to try and stop a little skid here. They've lost a couple of games. The goal scoring is really dried up, and that's kind of been the big focal point over the last couple of days here in Leafland, hasn't it been, Dave?
Yeah, it has, and it's just one of those things where the schedule's getting tougher, right? They've had some really good opponents, and they're playing more games, right? Like it was like one of those things where they play a game, 4 nights later they play another game, 3 nights later they play another game. Last week it was game, off, game, off, game, off.
Yeah,
right? They're wrapping things back up again. And they're doing it with a shorthanded lineup.
I think that's more so what it is, as opposed to the opponent and getting tired, the amount of hockey being played. I think a lot of it does have to do with the lineup and the fact that they're missing. At times, they were missing as many as 7 regular forwards at that out of their lineup. And then they also lost Jake McCabe. And Jake McCabe does a pretty good job of getting the puck out of the defensive zone and creating more offense by doing that. Timmins, Refi, all these guys, they don't necessarily do that as much. So, there's a lot of different factors to why the Maple Leafs haven't been scoring, but it's been written about. I was reading a couple of articles in The Athletic. I know that our boys, Jonas Siegel and James Myrtle, both wrote pieces about it. You can go check it out and kind of dive through the numbers as to kind of how poor it's been. Not just lately though, Dave. It's really been an issue all season long. Like the Leafs ranked just 18th in goals per game this year, and they've dropped by 0.67 less goals a game than they were a year ago. And I think a lot of us expected that to happen. Maybe not this drastic, but there was a prevailing thought that Sheldon Keefe, analytics, and all gas, no breaks. That's kind of what you were getting out of the team the last few years. This year was going to be a little different, right? Craig Berube was going to come in, instill a little bit more detail, a little bit more defensive-minded, more north-south, and more simple hockey and low-scoring hockey, and this has been the result. But it is interesting because it seems to really be biting the Leafs when they can't score goals. I saw a stat today, and credit and shout out to I think it was in Siegel's article where he pointed it out. When the Leafs score 2 or fewer goals, they've yet to win a hockey game this year. 0-9-1 when they score 2 or fewer. Like that's just like as good as the goaltending has been, they can't be that good where you can only afford to score 1 or 2 goals. They're not blanking teams each and every night. This team has to find a way to muster up some offense, and they got to figure it out real quick. Hopefully tonight in New Jersey, they can do just that.
Yeah, they need to, and it kind of goes to show that anybody that wants the Leafs to try to win those 1-0, 2-1 games, it's not an easy. It's not always a recipe for success, right? This is a team that still has a lot of offensive talent. They want to score. Craig Berube wants them to score, right? Maybe not in the way that we've come to expect this team to score.
He loved Marner's goal the other night. He was glowing about that today, wasn't he?
I think he called it a greasy goal.
Yeah.
He goals, like that's what he wants. It's not that he doesn't want the team to go out and show off offensively. He just wants it to be done in a way that it's sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Work, getting it done that way. And so, yeah, he's really, the ice time would also show that he's really enjoyed what Marner's doing this year. So that's been, I think, again, the mentality change, trying to get these players to realize that if you're going to want to score, if you want to get offense, you got to do it in ways that the coaching staff wants it done, which is to get into those greasy areas, right? Get in front of the net. That's where you generally are going to make most of your bang for your buck.
Yes, and that's exactly what he wants this team to start doing a little bit more of, and he believes that's going to unlock the way for them to score a little bit more than they have been. And I know that there's that old stat that's been out there for a couple of years, and whether or not it's still relevant, but it probably, I'm assuming, still is. But I remember Mike Kelly used to always bring it up. I used to always say 80% of the goals are scored within the slot and inner slot. So like that's where you're going to score 8 out of 10 goals. So you got to make sure you go to those areas and you score from there. And again, we're thinking about the goals that were scored over the weekend. Like that's where Marner was, right? In the inner slot, and he found a way to pounce on a rebound, right? Like that's just where those goals are being scored. That game winner from Connor McMichael, where was that? That was right in front of the net, right? Got a greasy garbage goal with a couple of bad bounces, right? Even the goal from Bunting was pretty well in the slot. He had to skate into it a little bit, but that was from right in the slot area. So, that's something that the team needs to do a lot more. I was also looking a little bit more into the stats just to see like, okay, the offense is down, and I guess why is the offense down? I thought there was a couple of interesting kind of declines from last season to this season that maybe would explain it. And James Myrtle also wrote about it a little too. So some of these are cherry pick stats from his, and some of them I found myself doing a little bit of research. But he was talking about how the bottom 6, they're scoring half a goal less per game than they did a year ago. And last year, the bottom 6 wasn't scoring enough. Now they're really not scoring enough. And also Austin Matthews not scoring at his elite rate is a big reason for why the team is not doing what he is. Like currently they're ranked 18th in goals per game. If Matthews was shooting at the same percentage that he was a season ago, they would be up to 10th in the NHL. That's what Matthews' early season struggles has been that big of a difference for the Maple Leafs this season. The injuries obviously don't help, right? Yarncroc, Domi, Pacioretty, those guys getting hurt. Matthews missed a bunch of games like that. That clearly doesn't help. And I know they won a lot of games without Matthews, but we talked about it. Offensively, they scored 1.83 goals per game at 5-on-5 without Matthews. They got lucky that the power play got hot at the right time, and they kept it rolling with good goaltending, but the offense was not necessarily there. And the shooting is down. The shooting percentage last year at 5-on-5, 973. This year, 868 at 5-on-5. And the shots overall, the volume that they're putting toward the net, down about 3.5 shots per game less than it was a season ago. The high danger chances are less than they were a season ago. So the quantity and quality of shots, they're not shooting as much. They're not converting on those shots nearly enough. The power play is down drastically also than it was a season ago, and it has been over the last couple of years. You factor in the injuries. There's a lot of reasons for why the Maple Leafs are not scoring goals, but you can look at all that and say the pendulum must swing the other way at some point, right? Law of averages show that everything balances itself out. Matthews is going to start scoring. Domi might return tonight. He should be able to add a little bit more offense to that bottom six. Pacioretty should be able to add some offense to the bottom six. Bobby McMahon might come back soon, and he should be able to add some offense wherever he is, push guys into the lineup. Can Fraser Minton stick with the team and give them a little bit more oomph than the doers or the camps or the Ryan Reeves of the world? So there is, I guess, some things you can look at and look forward to and expect some positive regression for this team moving forward if you want to look at a glass half full, Dave.
Yeah, I think when you look at Brandon Shanahan was speaking today to the media about the team's play this year, and he said, like, last year you saw a bit of that change of commitment to playing a more defensive minded structure, right? Being more responsible in that end. This year you're seeing, with the change in personnel, coaching staff, players on the blue line especially, like that's led to the success because they're not cheating. And they're being more responsible. They're putting a bit more of a focus on being a more sound defensive team. But yeah, it is, when you do have those players that are very defensive minded, it is going to come at a cost for offense, right? And so that's why it's so you prioritize those two.
Well, that's what it is. Like, what do you do? It's a bit of a conundrum because, again, 9-1 when you don't score 2 goals. Like, so when the big boys aren't getting it done and the power play isn't, I mean, you're probably going to lose the game is essentially what that means. Like, I think the big six, like the top 6 goal scorers for this team, have accounted for like 80% of the goals this year. If those guys aren't scoring, no one is, and they're losing hockey games. So it doesn't matter how defensive you are, because again, if you don't score 3 goals, you're not winning the hockey game. That's been the problem with the Leafs this year. So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg. It's kind of a catch-22 for the team.
It's a bit of also developing players to do that as well, right? Getting your younger players to have that defensive structure, right? You can teach defense.
Yeah.
You can teach players to be defensively sound. It's the offensive instincts that take a little more, that you kind of get more of those guys in the fold, right? You find the guys who have that offensive upside, and you just tell them, look, this is the defensive structure we want you to play. If you play to this defensive structure, you are going to have success. So I think that's been the easier sell for the guys who play offense, because they're seeing the benefits of not cheating defensively.
Yeah.
Like getting those other players that, with, like, looking at like a Max Domi, right? If you get him to play better defensively, it should hopefully lead to him having more, more offensive success. Like, it's getting some of those players to play better defensively. Those are the guys that are supposed to step up and give you that defense below your top, your top guys.
Yeah, but I do also remember, like, and I mean, he's the greatest goal scorer in the game's possibly ever seen, so I guess not everyone could do this, but, when you look at Alex Ovechkin, right, when he changed his game up and they won a Stanley Cup, right, the coach, Barry Trotz, I remember listening to him, he was quoted saying that he looked straight at the team and looked at Ovi and said, when you're in the defensive zone, you play my way. You play my way and you play right. When you're in the offensive zone, you can play your way. And that's kind of what unlocked stuff for that club. And I that should be the way that Toronto should be able to generate some offense. You still play Berube's way in your own end, but like, this is a skilled team, right? And they got to play, pretty fast, and they can shoot the puck, they can rip it, they can zip it around when they're at their best and when they're not overthinking things. So that kind of comes into play as well. It's still a learning progress, all right? Like, we're 28 games into this thing with Berube. I think, he probably will take the reins off a little bit. He wanted to make sure that the team coached out those bad habits, and now he can let them maybe get to their game a little bit. Matthews is just getting healthy again. So I think there's definitely room for improvement in the final 70 games of the season leading into or 50 so games of the season. Hopefully 70 if we go on a Stanley Cup run. I was foreshadowing, premonitioning that happening. All right, let's take a break, come back, tee up tonight's game, Leafs and Devils. We'll look at the lineups. We'll look at the stats, side-by-side stat comparisons for each team, and a couple of big newsy items coming out of both Ottawa, New York, and the Avalanche have made a trade. We'll tell you some NHL news and notes at the end as well. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Pick keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks put its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. You can sign up today and instantly get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get a podcast. Just search up Locked On Leafs, hit subscribe. You can find us on YouTube as well. Leafs in New Jersey tonight taking on the Devils, two pretty solid teams in the Eastern Conference, two of the top teams in the East, I would say. So it should be a good tilt. And as always, now there's a little bit more added pressure to these games with Sheldon Keefe being on the other side. And especially, considering that the Leafs spoiled Sheldon Keefe's original home opener, I'm sure the Devils will probably want to avenge that loss in a game tonight. So the Leafs will definitely have their hands full. Why don't we take a look at the side-by-side stats of each team, the kind of team matchup heading into tonight, Dave? Because, I think that it really goes to show, what we were talking about, the Maple Leafs, how it hasn't really been good offensively at 5-on-5. You'll take a look at the difference and the discrepancy between 5-on-5 offense for these two teams. The Devils this year, expected goals at 5-on-5, they're winning 54% of their minutes. The Leafs, they're actually losing more of their minutes than they're winning. They're only winning 49.8. Now, it's basically a 50-50 split, but when you go sub 50, it kind of starts to point out at you, doesn't it, Dave?
Yeah, the last few games have really hurt the Leafs in this regard, right? I mean, probably even the last few weeks, right? With the power play playing much better and the 5-on-5 scoring not there, they really need to find a way. It's not about keeping the puck out of the net; it's about getting the puck in the net at 5-on-5 and driving those chances. So, I think they're hoping that with getting some players healthy, that's going to help drive the offense a bit more, right? Especially at 5-on-5. And I think that's probably if you're looking at what's going to get this team back and rolling in, seeing how the players gel when they come back in, right? Max Pacioretty's back. Hopefully Domi and McMahon, like those three additions alone should help provide more of a boost up front that they really need.
You know what their record is when they score at least 3 goals in a game, 3 or more goals in a game?
I'm going to think really good, like undefeated.
16-0-1. You score 3 goals, they're 16-0-1. They've picked up 33 of a no, what's that math? Yeah, 33 of a possible 34 points when they score at least 3. The problem is, on average, they've only scored 2.96 goals per game compared to the Devils, who are averaging 3.4 goals per game themselves. So again, in order to beat the Devils, who can put the puck in the back of the net, they've got a lot of guys who are scoring goals. This is a very talented team, very potent offense. And of course, with Sheldon Keefe in tow, they know how to generate chances, and they're going to be tough to play against. You got to score at least 3 tonight. Like we talk about keys to the game, got to score 3. Mandatory. This team finds a way to dig deep. And whether it's an improvement on that 20% power play or it's an improvement on the goal scoring at 5-on-5, they have to find a way to at least get 3 tonight, if not 4, because the Devils, well, they know how to score, whether it's at 5-on-5 or on the power play. That's 32.6%. Offense is going to be key tonight for Toronto to win this game.
And that's expected, right, from a Sheldon Keefe team.
Yes.
Like the Keefe teams have always found ways to generate pretty good offense. Like, look, Jesper Bratt, really good year, right? 37 points in 30 games.
Yeah, crazy. Jesper Bratt's having an unbelievable season, but then like Heischer's right there. You've got Jack Hughes right there. Timo Meier's right there. I mean, we're gonna have our why don't we actually get right to it? Our locked on player to watch, who we didn't even mention in those list of names, who legitimately would be the second leading goal scorer for the Maple Leafs, is former Maple Leaf Stefan Noesen. He's got 13 goals this year, Dave. 13 goals, 22 points for the New Jersey Devils through 30 games this year. 76 hits, too. So he's really playing that two-way game. He's our locked-on player to watch. Why? Well, because he's a former Maple Leaf, and former Maple Leafs always seem to make Toronto pay. And I really just wanted to point out, again, we talk about a lack of depth scoring here in Toronto. You couldn't find a way to keep Stefan Noesen around back in the day, a couple of years ago. He wasn't good enough for you, Kyle. I don't know. It's kind of interesting because this guy's really having a big year. 13 goals through 30 games. His career high was last year. Had 14 goals in 80 games. Wow. There he is, 13 in just 30.
Unreal. It's unreal that a career year has happened in this short of a span after what he did the year. Like, those are the crazier ones for me when you see a player that went from having, 14 and 80 something games, pretty respectable. Oh no, he's just gonna do that in like a quarter of the games.
Yeah, it's kind of like last year's Michael Carcone. Remember Michael Carcone, another former, I guess Marlies great, Michael Carcone. Although not Mateau, Noesen only played one game with the Leafs, a handful with the Marlies. He was barely with the team realistically, but it's always fun to poke fun. Dig up those old scars. All right, let's quickly take a look at the lineup that the New Jersey Devils will be boasting. Obviously, Noesen going to be a part of it, but on the top line, you've got Hischier with Mercer and Timo Meier, Palat with Hughes and Jesper Bratt, Noesen on a third line with Haula and Paul Cotter, who's having a great season. They brought him in over from Vegas. He's been a big addition to that team as a two-way player. Thomas Tatar, Dowling and Laguerre, and defensively Dillon and Hamilton, Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce, Kovacevic, and then Jonas Siegenthaler. And I'd imagine Jacob Markstrom will get the start against the Maple Leafs on home ice. Let's take a look at the Leafs lineup now and what we're expecting to see in tomorrow's game based on what we saw in practice on Monday. Pacioretty with Matthews and Marner once again. Nyes continuing to be alongside Tavares and William Nylander. Holmberg, Minton, and Robertson as the third line. So possibly seeing Robertson check back in after a night in the press box against Pittsburgh. Reeves, Dewar, and Lorentz. That's the forward grouping. However, Dave, Max Domi did filter in and out on the second line and is going to be a game-time decision. There's a possibility, according to Craig Berube, that Max Domi could, in fact, play in tonight's game, which would be, again, big boost to this team trying to muster up some 5-on-5 offense.
Yeah, they've needed, and I understand that he hasn't had, a great season
he's gone 13 straight games without a point, mind you, leading up to the injury. Yeah. But
I'm hoping that the time off has given him the reset that he needs.
Yes.
Right. I think when you play through an injury it's tough. I mean, there's no way around. Like, it's not easy to play through an injury, and he did try it, right? And so I think you need guys that are going to help generate offense. Well, that's one thing he does so well. Is he's he's got playmaking ability. Yes, we wish he shot a little bit more. Of course, he's got a bit of that Marnerism to him. But I think, again, when you're looking at players that you want in the lineup, he is one. I'd rather see him playing right now than a Nick Robertson. I'd rather see Max Domi in the lineup over Ryan Reeves, because this team is having an issue scoring. They're not having, and like those two players I just mentioned, Robertson and Reeves, have contributed to that lack of scoring.
Yep. I believe they got a whopping 2 goals between them. Yeah. So
Stellar.
Certainly, yeah. Well, I mean, Domi has 0 goals himself, to be fair, but we know that the offensive capabilities are at least there. It's been proven. Last year, he had like 40 something assists at 5-on-5 last season, 43 or something. So he had a good year last season, provided some offense. So hopefully the reset does exactly that, Dave. And when he gets back, he can try and get a little bit more offense from that middle 6 wherever he ends up playing, whether it's second line wing, third line center, wherever he ends up getting into the lineup. Hopefully he can provide a little bit of secondary offense. Same blue line as before, and goaltending wise, probably gonna end up being Anthony Stolarz, I would imagine, since Wool played the last game. And Stolarz is from New Jersey, and if you recall, didn't get to play last time. The Hildebeest played in the last game because it was the back-to-back, right? First 2 nights of the season. So the Hildebeest had to come in and play instead of Stolarz on his playing in his hometown. So I would imagine he will get the start in this one tonight.
Yeah, just keeping the rotation going, as we've said. So one thing I know that the last couple games maybe haven't gone the stellar goaltending, but at the same time, I think out of the list of concerns, goaltending has been like
last
bottom.
Literally dead last for me. Yeah. I've had 0 issue. Health aside from Wall, obviously.
Yeah.
The goalies that have played, I've had 0 issues with the way that they've played this year. They've been quite remarkable and a big bright spot for the Maple Leafs this season. Can't believe I'm saying that. It's been a while since we've been able to say that about goaltending here in this city. All right, let's come back. Speaking of goaltending, there was a goalie trade in the NHL. Colorado bringing in a new goaltender, Georgie 5 out. He's getting shipped off. We'll tell you about that. And some Tkachuk tampering concerns. We'll get to that as well next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, you can bet them to win on the money line. Put down $5. They win. You get $150 in bonus bets over on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday on the show, free and available wherever you get yourself a podcast. All right, Dave, a bunch of games going on tonight. Big night, Tuesday. It's also the Overdrive broadcast on TSN tonight for Leafs and Devils, so that's always a lot of fun. Last year, I got to be part of the cold open. I don't know if you remember that, but I was kind of part of the broadcast. Sadly, I will not be this year. I did not get the call, so won't get to see my ugly
tremendous
face.
Information.
Yeah, there will be no tremendous information from my mouth, at least. I'm sure Johnny will give some good, tremendous information, as he typically does. But yes, I will not be part of it this year, unfortunately. But should be a good game. Lots of other games going on in the NHL. We had a big trade go down in the NHL yesterday as well. We talked about the Leafs. They've had great goaltending. Cannot say the same for the Colorado Avalanche. That team has been horrendous. I believe they've had the worst goals against this season. Alex Georgiev, literally nicknamed Georgie 5, can't put on his equipment without allowing 5 goals, it seems. They finally give up on him. They've traded Georgiev and his second-round pick for basically Mackenzie Blackwood. That's the main crux of the deal.
Yeah.
There's a couple other smaller players involved, but they go out and acquire Mackenzie Blackwood from the San Jose Sharks, and they give up Georgiev. They do open up about $670,000 in cap space as well by doing that deal. Both players are pending UFAs as well. But to me, I actually like the trade because I think Blackwood's played pretty decent this year, and San Jose's won some games this season. So I kind of like the deal from Colorado's perspective because they couldn't continue to put that guy out there. I mean, they tried with Wedgwood. Didn't really work. They made that trade last weekend, and they still were giving up a crap load of goals. So they say, all right, let's go out and get this guy who's got a 910 save percentage out in San Jose, and let's get us a decent goaltender, 6'4", 225 pounds. He's got the size, Canadian boy, good Thunder Bay kid. I like the move for the Colorado Avalanche to shore up the goaltending position.
Yeah, I've been wondering when they were going to finally end that ridiculous experiment with Georgiev. That was just, again, I understand why they made that deal when they did. They were looking to get goaltending at a decent price, not pay a lot, try to do what the Leafs are doing basically. But Georgiev just, it was one of those gambles, right? He did some good things with the Rangers, came over to Colorado. It's like, yeah, Colorado is not New York, right?
Well, let's be honest. He was kind of, in a way,
like he was touted as like a guy who could be a starter,
like this, but like almost like Stolarz-ish, where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, he never really was a starter. His career high before being, signed by Colorado was 34 games. It's like he's really just been a backup, whether it was to Lundqvist or whether it was to Shesterkin. He was always kind of a backup, and he wasn't going anywhere, and he had played well enough. He had like a 10, 9, 12 save percentage each and every year. Like career high 918 save percentage, a career high 271 goals against. So there was a good goalie in there. So they thought. Since he's gotten to Colorado, though, played pretty well the first year, had a 251 goals against and a 919 save percentage. The last 2 years, had an 897 last year with a 302 goals against and an 874 this season with a 338 goals against average. Somehow still has a winning record with those numbers, but that is not a recipe for success. They need someone with a little bit more ability to stop pucks.
They do, and they're pretty much going to a player who was supposed to be like that next goaltender for the Devils. Remember, he was like selected like second round when Blackwood was selected there, and just never really panned out in New Jersey, and then bounced around a little bit. Was in the AHL, then San Jose, then he was shipped off to San Jose. I'm pretty sure that was in the deal for
like Meyer. Was that the Meyer deal? Timo Meyer?
I think so. They the Sharks were like looking for goaltenders too, if I'm not mistaken. And so I don't hate the move for Colorado just because they needed to move away from this goaltending. And look, when they did the deal for Scott Wedgwood, apparently Wedgwood Blackwood, they have a type right now, and
there's definitely a no, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah, just leave it there, I guess.
Yeah, an affinity for Woods. All right, let's keep going.
But like think of this: if you're the Sharks, you traded. Actually, now I found the trade right now. They just only traded a 6th round pick for Blackwood. And they go around and they turn that into obviously two like a
second round pick, basically.
Yeah,
That'd take
second
on
round pick.
Georgia, but they got a second out of it.
Yeah, and even a fifth. Maybe you can you add a fifth.
Better than a sixth.
Right? Like I remember when like the Sharks, everyone was wondering what the heck are they doing over there. They're slowly but surely things are starting to look a little more better for them. These types of deals, like that's some good asset management from Greer over there. Like and
Celebrini is the real deal too. That kid's playing really well.
You got him. You have Will Smith as well, right? You got your kind of your
Goalie, 1-2 Eklund.
Like they're doing a good job there, and so
Liljegren.
Oh yeah, Trey.
I mean, Lil's got like 3 goals.
Even
the going over there.
The deal for Wallman too, right? They got assets in that one as well, and he's been doing well for them too. Like that's how you do a rebuild, right? You're not just getting spare parts from teams. You're kind of acquiring guys that you can flip for something potentially better. Or you know what? This guy has actually got some potential. Let's see if we can get the most out of them. Yeah. Right now, they're still not a good team. Like the Sharks are still a team that's going to take some time to build it back up. But I can see the direction there. I can see where things can get better for them. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a little bit of patience. But I do think that that's a team that's finally starting to, you can see the good moves being stacked together versus the bad moves that we've seen other teams make.
Yeah, totally. So we'll see if it works out for the Colorado Avalanche. I think getting a second round pick for Blackwood is pretty good business for the Sharks, and maybe Georgiev can give half decent goaltending. Possibly they could eat half that salary and trade him to a team who needs a backup if he can kind of rebound in a new spot, new place, and maybe even get something for that too. I guess we'll see. Really quickly, would you like to update our listeners on the New York Rangers tampering allegations?
Yeah, so essentially there was a report out of the New York Post by one Larry Brooksy.
So I'm saying Brooksy.
That said that Chris Drury was targeting Brady Tkachuk as a player that the Rangers want to go and get. Like this, he's their primary target. So apparently that reporting did not exactly go over swimmingly in Ottawa. Steve Stales apparently also, I think he went to speak with Tkachuk just to kind of say like there's nothing to it. Then good old owner Michael Andlauer threw gasoline on the fire and basically said like this is complete, first Stales called it complete BS. Andlauer is pretty much furious, looking at the NHL to investigate for tampering. This after Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley said that the league is going to take a hard line against tampering. And we know the Ottawa Senators have been punished by the league for that Evgeny Dadonov mishap with his trade clause, and that docked them a first round pick. So the Senators have some beef right now with the league.
Like 2 years later, they got docked for the pick when Andlauer took over the team.
Welcome to owning a hockey team. I mean, he had previous ownership. Like, welcome to the ownership group. You're not going to have a first round pick.
Yeah, we're taking away your draft pick. Yeah, I could see why he would be quite annoyed and upset by this. But, as a Leafs backer,
I'm loving this. I'm loving the whole the chaos around Ottawa right now. And like,
dude, they can't win games, man. They can't win games. It's tough. I thought this was going to be the year. I think what do you call it? Bold prediction at the beginning of the season was Leafs Sens round 1. That was my bold prediction. I went out on a limb and said this is the year the Sens get it together. Not the case. All of a sudden, we're into early December, and there's rumors swirling about their captain being dealt.
Yeah.
So again, not necessarily true, and not being started by anyone in Ottawa, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting kind of predicament that the
It's an
Senators find themselves
interesting
here.
time with the Board of Governors meetings in Florida right now. Like usually these are like low key, not much going on, and Andlar's like
I
ripping the
think
Rangers up.
Dolan go to those? You think James Dolan?
Yeah, I don't know who's the New York governor.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's just not James Dolan. I just assumed that it was actually because like a lot of the owners are there. No,
I'm looking right now. Alternate governor. Oh, I might be Chris Drury. He's because he's the
that's the case.
president, GM, and alternate governor. So he might
Oh,
be the
is
guy.
Anlauer okay? So is Anlauer there for
Yeah,
Ottawa?
yeah.
So you've
Because
got Drury and Anlauer together. Oh baby, I'd love to watch those two having a drink at the bar tonight. Like,
as all
that
the
conversation.
insiders are just around being like, all right,
Oh yeah.
where's the tea?
Oh yeah, that's funny. That is good stuff. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there too. I doubt anything's gonna happen. Tough to like it's a report, first of all. Nothing's been proven,
Yeah.
and it'll be tough to prove it. I mean, I would imagine 31 other teams would be interested in pursuing Brady Tkachuk. And we're not talking a free agent because he's got what, like 4 or 5 more years left on his deal. It would have to be through a trade, obviously. So I think I would imagine that conversation pops up all the time in boardrooms. So I think it's pretty silly to get upset over this because I can guarantee you Chris Drury's not the only GM that's uttered the name or had the thought of trading for Brady Tkachuk with the Senators absolutely floundering. Again, great to see. Love to see the boys over at Locked On Sens crying every single night when they lose hockey games. Anyway, speaking of the Sens and the Leafs and the connection there, injury update on Matt Murray, Dave.
Yeah, so Matt Murray's hurt. Surprise, shock.
Shocker.
It happened in the first period of their last game. Give a shout out to Nick Barton, who believes that it was after just making a save, looked routine. It wasn't like he made the save and was down. He made the save, and all of a sudden he was out of the game. Like it's just like he pulled something, I guess, being precautionary. Fortunately for the Marlies, they have depth in goaltending. They have both the Hildebeest and Arthur Aktinyamov, who has been really good this year.
Yeah. What are his stats again? He's got like a 920 something save percentage or close to it, I thought. He's been great for the Marlies.
Right now, it's too many goalies.
Yeah, there's a lot of goaltenders in this Toronto system. There really, really is. But I guess hopefully some of them kind of start to shine through. And there's been no goalies for the last 30 years. And now all of a sudden there's a little pipeline coming through. Can't complain about it.
Yeah. So, okay. Why is Elite Prospects just glitching on me right now?
Nice.
So it looks like this is so embarrassing. Okay. I'm gonna look up. I'll look up Dennis Hildeby, just himself. Hildeby hasn't had as good of a year as Aktinyamov. I believe it's just like a 915 save percentage, and that's
933 save percentage for Artur Aktinyamov this year. 933.
It's pretty good for him.
7-0-1. He only has one loss. Actually, not. It was an overtime loss at that.
Yeah, Hildeby has struggled this year. He's got a 2-4 record with an 8.97 save percentage.
Oh, Matt Murray. I haven't even looked to see what Matt Murray's stats are.
He's played quite a few games this year.
6 games, only 6 games, a 242 goals against and a 912 save percentage. So, like, not bad. Like, those are really good NHL numbers. I mean, AHL, sometimes it's more difficult to play in the AHL because the blue line's not as good, right? So I think that makes Artur Aktyamov's numbers even more special. And again, he's just 23 years old. So there's a lot of development still left for Aktyamov. It's his first season in North America after spending, his whole career in the KHL. Last year, 921 save percentage, 927 the year before that, 943 the year before that. So, the 933 save percentage, pretty on par for what he was doing back in Russia. And they know how to build those goalies, as we've seen over the last few seasons. So maybe Akhtyamov is the next great Russian goaltender. Wouldn't that be something? If he's ready to go in 2 years, when Stolar's contract is up, you pair up Wall with Akhtyamov, away we go.
There was a lot when he was drafted by the Leafs, and just watching him during his time with Russia, like there was a lot to like. A lot of people had a lot of positive things to say, and obviously, as you mentioned, the Russian factory certainly helps. Certainly helps with that too. 4th round pick.
Yeah,
one of those where you hope for good things, and good numbers in the KHL. Obviously, didn't play a lot, and that's why they brought him over here to get him that playing time. So, yeah, he's a bit older too. Like, he's not like a 20-year-old, right? He's 23 years old.
Yeah, but those Russians
is not considered old by
the Russians
standards.
always get over here late. Like, Shesterkin didn't get over until he was 25. Sorokin was 25. Like, that's typical. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this kid doesn't arrive into the NHL until he's 24, 25. If anything, that's kind of right on cue for a lot of these Russians.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to see, how I'm right now. I'm like, with the way things are going, he's the number one with the Marlies, and like he's gotta get himself back on track here. It's been tough for him, but he had good stat. He had a good year last year, so
he'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out. There was a lot of talk about the two young goaltenders with the Marlies, and these guys, professional hockey, for these young goaltenders, it takes time for them to find their game.
And it's probably also just like not easy being in a trio, which is what they've been this year, filtering through, Matt Murray, Artur Akhtyamov, and Dennis Hildeby, all three of them rotating into starts. Probably also difficult to get into a rhythm too, which might make things a bit more harder on Hildeby. Didn't expect to get into hot Leafs goalie prospect talk today, but hey, you never know what you're going to get on the Locked On Leafs podcast, apparently. But big game tonight. Excited for it. Leafs and Devils. Last time Hildeby actually won a game in the NHL was against the Devils earlier this season. We'll see if Anthony Stolarz can get it done tonight as well. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.